Yes, sir. Brother?
My wife would like to know if the Bible says anything about cremation.
No, it doesn't say a thing. 1 Corinthians chapter, the principle on it here in 1 Corinthians, you get 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Now, the thing about cremation is this. It looks bad. And the question is, should a Christian be cremated? Now, you know, some of the brethren are what they call super pious and super stupid. And they have these funny ideas about things where they can't seem to get a hold of anything. Questions like abortion and birth control, and questions about marriage, divorce, anything got to do with sex. Your modern fundamentalist is kind of a sex obsession neurotic, and he has these wild ideas that if you get the place to downright impractical at times, and nobody but a fool would espouse them. And one of these things, this matter of in the matter of cremation, I want to ask you something. What do you suppose they do down in New Orleans when a person dies? You know why they cremate them? There ain't room to bury them. See, sometimes people don't even think, suppose you died in Shanghai, where would they bury you? You know what the population of Shanghai is per square foot? Or Hong Kong, or Sao Paulo down there in South America? You take down in New Orleans, you notice how many of them buried in those Catholic cemeteries and vaults up in the air? It's because when it floods down there, you be drinking dead man's bones and dead man's blood in the city water. Half of New Orleans is below the water level. It's below sea level out there in some places. You couldn't bury people out there. You kill all the people that are left alive. Hurricane comes in around New Orleans, boy, you need to get out. You take up here, you know that as you get this TV, I get letters, I get letters from all my friends up here up north every time a hurricane comes down there. How are you, Brother Ruckman? Are you all right? We heard about the terrible news. Maybe you better move. Did it come to you? I've been through 5 hurricanes down there. You know what I do when I prepare for a hurricane? I drink 1 cup of coffee in the morning instead of 2. You know. Sometimes I take 2 lumps instead of 3. You know what you got in America? I'll get back to this in a minute. But you know what you got down? When you got down there, what you got down there is what's called news media overkill. Everything the news media does, it just does to death in order to keep your interest. Don't you get that? Don't you do anything in football right now? Every time a guy makes a run, they put up how many runs he made and how many, and how many downs when there was so much to run, when somebody was playing on a night lights on a playoff game. Here's the only man who ever ran, 50 yards in the 3rd down when the score was tied on a night lights where we were playing with a game and all that. Bunch of junk, man. They just throw a bunch of slop at you, don't you know that? It's an overkill. Now they got the camera down the line. This fella moves that way and that fella moves this way. And I try to move his hand, I try to move his foot. It's an overkill. And when a hurricane comes down there, you take that last 2 that came down there. It was a terrible wind. It blew several leaves off some trees in my backyard, You say, well, it blew over 1 tree in my backyard, and it was a dead tree, been dead 15 years, man. You could have gone out there and breathed on it and fallen over. And why they have all those people leave the Gulf Coast, they're all running up Montgomery, the highways are all jammed, the news media's down there taking pictures. Look how the waves are beating on the pier. The saphead's got his camera down on the beach level shooting up, man. He's shooting up so it looks like the waves on the pier. It ain't near the pier. Kate came through down there last week. There were guys out there swimming in that thing. I got pictures of guys out swimming in that thing, Surf's up. Why, the night that hurricane came through there, that one about a month ago, the day before that came through there, I said to my wife, let's go play a racquetball. So my wife went for a racquetball at night, and I told David, so I'll be good fishing. All right, went fishing. And the morning was supposed to hit, we went fishing. About 20-mile-an-hour wind. All that crazy, cockeyed junk. Everybody's just in a panic. By leaving Holiday Inn full, Ramadi, $1 million business, Ramadi Inn full, all the auditoriums full, all the high school people away from their homes 4 and 5 days, patrol right down, threaten to arrest people who don't leave the beach. What a bunch of bunk, man. What a bunch of bunk. Well, I think on that whole beach down there in Pensacola, got about 8 windows broken, some shingles blown off. That's about it. You could have stayed down that thing and swum through the whole thing. You wouldn't have caught cold. That's an overkill. An overkill, that stuff coming through there. And people get them scared to death. The news media has controlled the American mind now, where the news media could create a crisis, and everybody would just panic. They just panic. I've got them beat. I don't have a television set, and I turn the radio off. Hurricane comes through, I turn the radio on once every 12 hours. I figure that way you'll find all you need to know, 5 minutes and 12 hours. Find out what's coming there. Hot coordinates, longitude, latitude, everybody's run like a bunch of mad fools. Let me ask you something. What'd that Seminole Indian do down there for 200 years? You know Florida had Seminole Indians all over for 200 years? They never knew when the thing was coming till it hit. They asked one boy out Key West one time, an old timer down there, lived down there 80 years, how many hurricanes he'd been through? He'd been through 25 hurricanes. He said, how do you find it now? He said, well, with all the radio information, kind of takes the fun out of it. Now listen, if you're right on let me give you some good advice. If you're right on the beach, okay, leave the beach. Okay, if you're right on the beach, leave the beach. That's smart, Unless you're, 21 in good condition. And if you're up on land, if you're in a trailer, and it isn't really dogged down good, it might be a good idea to get out of the trailer. And outside of that, ain't nothing to it, man. I mean, just prepare for the power to go off a couple of days and cook in the backyard, nothing to it. All right, now about this burying bodies. When a hurricane comes through, this water comes up in New Orleans, everybody gets polluted. The bodies weren't buried or weren't sacked above ground, so they are burned, so they burn them. Now, I had to preach a funeral about a year ago where it was cremated. And I must admit, it's a funny feeling, to stand there by a jar, preach, and think about, a guy coming to your home and putting ashes in the ashtray, and it's the wrong tray. But, the way they do it now, they don't really burn them anyway. They got this thing, computerized, electronic, high-speed stuff, like kind of microwave, And I'm talking about a guy, I know a guy that watches it, and he said, his body lies down on the table, you watch through this glass, and all that happens, they turn on this terrific thing, and the body will just, kind of draw up, rigor mortis kind of half rise, and then it just collapse. And when it collapses, it just all goes to ashes. Just a matter of just seconds for it, just like that. Ain't no flame burning nothing up, just all blows to pieces. Or now, from a Christian standpoint, the reason why some Christians are so abhorrent of it is it's because of this. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 22. Abstain from all appearance of evil. It just looks bad. Compared to the idea of the Christian's body is burning, and it looks like he's burning in hell, or going to burn in hell, and of course he's not going to burn in hell, so it looks bad. So some of them object on those grounds. But of course, if you're really saved, you know better. Because if you're saved, you're not in your body, and like I told you, you're gone from your body, you're departed from your body, ain't going to be a difference to you. You can be like that colored fellow said he wanted to be buried in a watermelon patch. So in the springtime, it could just drip down to his mouth, because you ain't going to get it in your mouth after you're dead. You're buried. I tell my wife, if I have to get buried before the Lord comes, I hope I don't. I want to bury at sea. I don't want to be buried in the ground. Nothing, I just don't like the dirty old ground with the worms and stuff. I'd rather eat my crabs, or something like that. And, it's just something, it just always seemed nice to me about this slowly sinking down in the blue water, Salt, clean, just sink down to the bottom, but down you go. But that's silly. You won't know what you're doing. You're going, you're up there with the Lord. You won't know what to do with your body. But I just rather not. I don't want my kids come to my grave and putting flowers on me where Daddy's buried, and drive by, and Daddy's buried out there. I'd rather them go down to the beach, and say, well, there he is. I've always been on real friendly terms with the water. Real friendly terms. I was raised, you believe it or not, I was raised in Kansas. And every summer we'd drive from Topeka, Kansas, to Wilmington, Delaware, and Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and I was raised on the beach. Every June, July, and August, I had no shoes on my feet. That's why I don't like them. My feet just grew out. I got 9.5 triple E. They're just like a duck's foot. And I grew up on that beach. And June, July, August, and then when I got on to be a bathhouse boy, and Kansas took care of the beach houses and bathhouses and umbrellas, and then I got on to be a lifeguard. I lifeguarded in the beaches of Atlantic City and up in there, and then out in the park, in Gage Park. Now, when I went to college, I was a swimmer in Big 6 and Big 10 swim. And now I've been saved about 35 years. I go out at about 11, 12 o'clock at night, take a mullet net, wade out there in the surf. Sometimes get hit down at night with the waves. And I've always been a good term to surf. I've gone body surfing the waves as big as these last two hurricanes. In northeasters off the coast of Cape Hatteras up there in Carolina. I mean, waves 10, 15 feet high. Kind of a rough ride. I mean, you don't come in like this, you know. You come in like that, mouthful of gravel when you get in. But I've always been on good terms with the water. I know the water. I know what you can do and what you can't. I know when to respect it, too. And I've been out there at night fishing in a plastic boat with a 400-yard net. Two guys pushing out right before the hurricane came in. And got off the bar with a tide, taking off down the bar in 8, 10 feet of water in the middle of the night, trying to take that net out and have the waves come in and take the net clean out the back end of the boat. And when you're 58 years old, it ain't quite an easy job, when you're 30. And the thing goes the back end of the boat, and then the boat sinks. The guy going on the water trying to get the boat up, and I got on a wool sweater in the winter. I'm going to the water trying to get that boat up, and that boat is a plastic boat, and it's torn at the side, and that torn part of that boat pick up that wool sweater. Pull at it, Last time I surfaced up, I told the kid with me, I said, let her go, let her sink, man. And he said, okay, if you say let her sink, I'm going to let her sink. We came on back in. What happens, you get tangled up in that boat, see, and that thing get a hold of a wool sweater, takes you right out on the bottom, boy, you're a dead duck. You can't get out. So I know when to be careful, but I like the water. It's always like. I like it right now. I'm probably backslid. I probably should have started that school in Cincinnati, or in Memphis, central located. Where the kids get a good job. We wouldn't have to fly so hard to get to the meeting. But you get down near the ocean. The ocean will get a hold of you. Lord, get your blood, man. You'll hear the waves hitting at night. So like I said, I'd like to be buried out in the water, but it don't make no difference. So you're dead, man. You're gone. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 13. 1 Corinthians 6:13, a brutal verse. Meats for the belly, Bible's a plain book, and the belly for meats. Hey, like that, call your stomach your belly. Meats for the belly and the belly for meats. You know how you work? Feed your belly. Ain't that a spiritual thought? You work to feed your belly. People work to stay alive. All the labor of man is for his mouth, but the appetite is not filled. Meats for the belly and the belly for meats. So here you go. But God shall destroy both it, the belly, and them, the meats. So God's going to destroy a man's body whether it gets cremated or not. So technically there's nothing wrong with cremation at all. It destroys the body, but the body's going to get destroyed anyway. I'll give you one illustration. We'll close this thing. John Patton. Now, that's not Georgie. But John Patton, one of the greatest missionaries ever lived, he went to New Hebrides. He left the island of Tawana over there. Every adult native on that island was a professing Christian. He went to a place called Aniwa first and got run off it. Wife died, missionary station burned to the ground, Bible burned up. He had to bury one of his children. If any one of us went through what Patton went through, we'd say, I must be out of the will of God, we'd have come on home. But those missionaries made a stronger stuff in those days. And he went off the next island, went to work on there, and when he got through there, every adult native on that island was a professing Christian. And when John Patton started to go overseas, a lot of people tried to discourage him. They said, where are you going? He said, New Zealand. They said, those people are cannibals. He said, so what? And one of them said, well, I just can't stand before I'm dying, and after I'm dead, a cannibal eating me. And Patton said, but what's the difference between a cannibal eating you and a maggot eating you? See? That's a thought. Now, after you're dead, you're dead. Nothing like a Bible to clear up a college education.